voice?
Never! I never do that. I never just fall into it. How about Julianne Moore? No, just on it's a magical experience.
I know you love your dada. Go on, say it. Dada. Dada.
Yes, of course he loves you. He just doesn't show it on his face or with his body language. Right, Gru Jr., come on.
You know, obviously you've been returning to voice Gru for quite a long time now.
Yeah.
Do you still get the same excitement when you step back into that voice booth and get to do the voice?
I do.
Again?
It's really fun. It's fun to do the voice. And it's fun to see where the writers have taken the story. And because it's always different. You know, the last one, there was my brother that I had never met, and the one before that, there were different villains. So it's always fun to kind of see the direction that the writers are leading the story.
Yeah, and this time around, as well as other things, Gru has got a blood-related child for the first time.
Yes.
Gru Jr. How much would you say that's changed him as a man?
Wow, that's a very deep question. How much did having a baby change it? Well, having kids changed him. You know, having his girls, adopting his 3 girls changed him to a great extent. It kind of melted his heart. And I think right now the most important thing to him is being a good father. And he keeps getting pulled in different directions and pulled back into sort of a nefarious world of intrigue and heists. But the problem with his baby is that baby loves Lucy, loves his mom, not so fond of Gru to begin with. So he has to try to bond with his son, and it's not working out for him so well.
Yeah, and that's one of the obstacles, of course. The other big thing in his path in this film is a new villain voiced by Will Ferrell, Maxime, who's obviously someone he knows from childhood, from being at school. Was that quite interesting to you, kind of a villain that had its roots? It's
a villain that, you know, they went to evil school together and were learning the tricks of the trade, and they offended one another way back when. And it's really funny that this grudge started when they were little kids because one sang a song that the other one wanted to sing, and it was something so petty and so small that became this huge point of contention between them.
Yeah, and obviously you've worked with Will a lot of times in the past. You're good friends with him. I mean, I presume for this film you're doing your voice bits at different points. You're not in the same room together. But
no, we never are. No, when we tape it, we are never together.
Yeah.
And I didn't even recognize his voice when I saw the movie for the first time. I knew it was him, but it didn't sound like him at all. It was great.
Did you have a lot of conversations with him beforehand or after seeing the film about the two characters and about their relationship?
Hardly at all. No. We ran into each other at a hockey game in Los Angeles while we were both shooting. And he said, "You know I'm in this." I said, "I know you're in this. This is great." And he had just done a couple of voiceover sessions, and we were comparing notes about, because he hasn't worked with Illumination before, and they have a very specific way of doing the animation and doing the voiceovers. And it was so much fun. And it's fun to do press with him, too. And Kristen Wiig, you know, kind of getting old friends back together.
Yeah. Have you had conversations with him both doing the voices that you do in the film, or is that...
No, I've never heard him do the voice live.
Okay.
No. Just on, it's a magical experience to watch him do it.
Yeah. How often do you find yourself, do you ever find yourself just kind of going back into the voice when you're not filming it, just kind of saying things in the Gru voice?
Never! I never do that. I never just fall into it. Hardly ever.
Well, yeah. And, you know, obviously now that you've gone up against Will as a villain, is there anyone else that you've acted with before that you would quite like to voice a villain in the future?
How about Julianne Moore?
Oh,
I would love to see Julianne Moore play a supervillain in a Despicable Me movie.
Yeah, that would be a real threat.
I think it would be fantastic.
The Minions obviously have gone through, well, some of the Minions go through some big change in this film as well.
They do, yes.
Super Minions. Was that quite exciting for you to see the next evolution in Minion kind?
Well, it just goes to show that a minion is a minion is a minion. No matter what kind of powers a minion is given, they are always going to be a minion, and they will always screw things up. They will always find a way to mess to make a mess of things.
I enjoyed the there was a kind of parody advert about the megaverse, about all the different films that could potentially be involved with them. It got me thinking, because there was a few titles in there parodying Apocalypse Now and stuff like that. Which film do you think would gain the most classic film from having the cast replaced by Minions?
Oh my gosh. Citizen Kane might be a great film inhabited just by Minions. I think it would be a reborn classic.
Yeah. It's hard to think of a film that wouldn't be in some way improved without Minions. Maybe somewhere it might be insensitive.
Improved might be a strong word. Made interesting, made unique. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that would improve Citizen Kane by having Minions. Rosebud. But how would Rosebud be said in Minionese? Like, magma! I don't know.
Yeah. Obviously, one of the things that is, there's a lot of things that have made Despicable Me so popular over the years, and recently there's been a lot of kind of memes around Minions, and when the last Minions film came out, there was this whole trend of, groups of guys getting dressed up in suits.
Gentleminions,
Was that something that you found quite interesting to watch that unfold and seeing all this interest in maybe a slightly different way than we're used to seeing?
I was talking to Chris Meledandri, who is the head of Illumination, and we were talking about it when it first started. Like, is this actually a thing? Is this like a one-off? Because we saw, I think, in Texas somewhere, a bunch of kids dressed up and wore suits and went to one of the early screenings. And then it started to go viral, and that started happening all over. But the first one happened, and we thought, oh, that's really cool that those kids thought to do that. Yeah. But then it caught on, and it became a thing to do. What I loved about it was that it was not ironic. Those kids had grown up with Despicable Me, much like my kids did. And they unironically still love it. They love to go. My kids still love the series. They go to every one. And they're 20 and 23. They still enjoy it. But it is. It's like, it's nostalgic, but it's not ironic.
Yeah. And as those kind of kids have grown up with it, there's also obviously always new generations coming to see it as well. How do you think it is that it can continue to appeal so well? Like, beyond, obviously, the Minions and the characters. Why this series in particular?
Well, I think the writing is really smart, because I think it, and not to get too involved in it, not to pick it apart too much, but I think it's at its core, it's about family, it's about people who care about each other. It's funny, it's a little subversive, and it's not condescending to kids. I think it respects their intelligence and respects their sense of humor. And it's kind of it's just fun. They're just fun for people to go see. It's an escape.
Yeah. One scene in this film that I found very fun was right at the end with the kind of, there's a sing-off, karaoke off.
Yeah.
Is that quite interesting to sing in the Gru voice? Do you have to think quite hard about that, or does it just come quite naturally?
It didn't come naturally at first, because you have to think, well, how does this guy actually sing? Like, is he a good singer? Is he kind of, not that I'm a good singer, but should he sound good, or should he sound a little awkward at it? And I landed on a little awkward. I don't think he's a guy who grew up singing. So I think it's sort of a new experience for him.
Yeah.
And he loves it, but he's not necessarily good at it.
Yeah.
But now, I could see Gru doing karaoke every night now. He loves it.
Yeah. Maybe the next one can just be a musical.
Yeah.
This is
karaoke Gru.
Yeah. And I want to quickly ask about the character of Poppy as well, who kind of, Gru, I guess, reluctantly at first takes her under his wing.
Yeah.
Was that quite an interesting dynamic to see?
Poppy is the most nefarious character of all. She is one of the scariest villains Gru has ever come up against, because this is a neighbor to where Gru and his family are living, and she is the daughter of their neighbors and an aspiring supervillain herself, and she is terrifying, and Gru thinks she is terrifying. Gru is sort of put back on his heels by this young girl, and she prompts him to join her in making this heist. She sort of holds him for ransom a little bit, and she's a hilarious character.